First, authorities gave Tory Lanez a penny for allegedly making crude remarks about Meghan, but he never seems to get a break. Then, as if that weren't enough, the stallion was repeatedly shanked while incarcerated.
Was stabbed 14 times.
The rumors that Tory Lanez died while receiving treatment, he was unaware that his lungs had collapsed, are what have the hip-hop community most upset.
He didn't even know his lungs had collapsed. All he knows is that he couldn't breathe.
There is a lot going on. Let's discuss it. At around 7:20 a.m. local time on Monday, May 12, 2025, at the California Correctional Institution in Tehachapi, about 75 miles north of Los Angeles, the Say It rapper, whose legal name is Dyer Peterson, was allegedly attacked by an inmate named Santino Casio, who is serving life in prison with the possibility of parole for several serious charges, including second-degree murder. The attack was no joke, according to multiple verified reports. 4 knife wounds were found on his thorax, 2 on the back of his dome, 7 on his back and 1 on the left side of his face by astute Lanez.
14 times, 5 times in his back, 1 under his left cheekbone. In fact, his jaw was open. He was stabbed twice in the back of his head, and the rest in his torso, arms, and in his chest.
Most concerningly, both of his lungs failed during the attack, putting him on a breathing machine immediately. This is the kind of circumstance where it's touch and go, real talk.
Seemed sensational, but thankfully, like Dr. King, it was close to his heart but did not penetrate. He said, and I quote, "Dad, I thought it was my last."
Correctional officers responded quickly, administering first aid and phoning emergency services. They hurried Lane to a nearby hospital for prompt medical attention. Although the cause of the stabbing is unknown, the investigation is being conducted by the prison's Investigative Services Unit and the Kern County District Attorney's Office. Records reveal that 42-year-old alleged attacker Santino Casio has a history of violence inside the walls, having been at Tehachapi since February 2004 after being transferred from Los Angeles County Jail. Casio was also charged with other offenses while incarcerated, including a 6-year sentence in January 2008 for assaulting another inmate with a weapon and a 2-year bid in 2018 for possessing or manufacturing a deadly weapon. We've been receiving updates on Tory's status, primarily through his verified Instagram, and remarks from his parents while they look into what happened. Sunstar Peterson, in an Instagram post from his official account, Tory detailed his injuries and stated that by May 13th, just 1 day after the air caught those 14 holes, he was temporarily on a breathing machine. According to his father, who spoke at a press conference downtown on May 14, 2025, medical personnel had already begun removing tubes that were draining fluid from his lungs.
In the hospital is that he is doing remarkably well. I was told yesterday, because they had already taken out the tubes that were draining the fluids from his lungs, they had already taken them out by the time my wife and I got there.
As of May 14th, the most recent information indicates that Lanez is recovering remarkably well despite what he went through. He is breathing on his own, talking normally, and maintaining his spirits despite being in excruciating pain. It's important to keep in mind that this attack occurs while Tory is already going through it, as most of you are likely aware. Lanez was found guilty in December 2022 of 3 felony charges related to the July 2020 shooting involving Meghan Thee Stallion, which included assault with a semi-automatic firearm, possessing a concealed unregistered burner, and negligent discharge of a firearm. He began serving his sentence in August 2023 AR after being transferred from LA County Jail to the state prison system. The stabbing has rekindled all of the previous arguments regarding Tory's initial case, and the timeline is still split, which heightens the drama. On May 14th, 2025, just 2 days after the stabbing, Tory's legal team called a press conference to announce what they say is new evidence in his shooting case. We'll get into that juicy development in a moment, but for now, let's at how people initially responded to the news. Depending on how people already felt about Tory and his conviction, Many fans and some game artists expressed concern and sent prayers on X. Some users pointed out that regardless of your thoughts about Lanez celebrating violence, one user tweeted, "Celebrating Tory Lanez getting stabbed is degenerate behavior. There should never be a time when you wish death on someone on behalf of a celebrity. The amount of violence in our prisons is horrifying. It is not at all funny what happened. And no, he didn't deserve it, but keeping it a buck," stated journalist Megan Cuniff, who has been heavily investigating Tory's case. Additionally, some people have expressed no sympathy or outright celebration of what happened. These reactions typically refer to Tory's conviction for shooting Meg and suggest that karma has returned. These kinds of comments highlight how toxic social media can become when controversial figures are subjected to violence, particularly when there is already animosity and the stabbing has sparked conspiracy theories. While some social media users are making connections between the attack and the alleged new evidence in Tory's case, others are wondering if the stabbing was planned for legal purposes. One former user even conjectured, "Two don't think Tory Lanez was stabbed. Instead, I think his crew planned a scheme to get him out of jail." These responses demonstrate the complexity of public opinion when celebrities are implicated in crimes. The disagreement over Tory mirrors broader discussions about justice responsibility and the impact of public opinion on high-profile criminal cases. To fully comprehend this predicament, let's take a step back and provide some background on why Tory is imprisoned in the first place. As previously stated, Lanez is facing a 10-year sentence for shooting Megan Thee Stallion in July 2020. The incident occurred after a pool party at Kylie Jenner's crib in the Hollywood Hills. According to the court filings, Tory allegedly made fun of Megan's rap abilities during an argument in an SUV, causing her to exit the vehicle. As she did, he allegedly yelled, "Dance, bitch!" and fired shots at her feet, wounding her so severely that surgery was necessary to remove bullet fragments. He was charged with 3 felonies by the LA County District Attorney's Office in October 2020, and after a 9-day trial in December 2022, the jury found him guilty on all counts on August 8, 2023. Judge David Hereford of the Los Angeles Superior Court sentenced Lanez to 10 years in prison. He received credit for roughly 10 months of his time served, reducing his effective sentence to about 9 years and 2 months. Tory's team had pushed for probation or minimal time, citing his charitable work and childhood trauma, which included losing his mother when he was just 11 years old. Lanez was first detained in the LA County Jail, where he claimed to be in a half-size cell under 24-hour lockdown. He claimed to be leading daily prayer groups and assisting in maintaining order in the Protective Custody Unit. On September 19, 2023, they moved him to North Kern State Prison in Delano, a medium security location, before transferring him to CCI Tehachapi, which houses both medium and maximum security inmates throughout his bid. Lanez has insisted on his innocence in relation to shooting Megan. His legal team filed a motion for a new trial, arguing that there was insufficient evidence and improper admission of evidence, such as Megan's testimony regarding Tory's parole status. Judge Hereford shut that down on May 9, 2023. In September 2023, the court denied a bail motion that would have allowed Lanez to hang out in Los Angeles with his wife and son while the appeal process was underway. The judge cited the violent nature of his conviction, his track record of breaking court orders, and his risk of deportation as a Canadian citizen as justifications for keeping him in jail despite his incarceration. Tory has continued to be active in the music industry and uphold his public persona. He has released a number of songs, such as collections titled Lost Tapes, which are recordings of prison tapes from 2015 to 2020 that were made while he was incarcerated, and Twitch tapes that were recorded live on Twitch before he was locked up in 2025. He even released an album called Peterson, which was dubbed the first ever real-time prison album that was entirely recorded while he was inside using AI technology. The album reportedly peaked at number 25 on the Billboard 200, demonstrating Tory's continued influence in the industry despite his legal issues. His fans continue to hope for his release despite everything that has happened, and his legal team is working tirelessly to make it happen with new evidence and legal twists. On May 14, 2025, Lance's attorneys, in collaboration with a non-profit legal organization called Unite the People, UTP, assembled journalists and supporters in downtown Los Angeles to present what they say is groundbreaking new evidence regarding his 2020 shooting. Conviction came just 2 days after Tory suffered 14 stab wounds at the California Correctional Institution in Tehachapi.
James informed Unite the People that he was witness to the conversation Ms. Harris had where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody.
This announcement's timing is perfect. People were quickly raising their eyebrows and making assumptions about potential connections between the two incidents after Tory almost died in the prison attack. In accordance with press conference reports, Bradley James, who Tory's team identified as Kelsey Harris, Megan Thee Stallion's former best friend and bodyguard, who was present during the July 2020 shooting, provided testimony. James's testimony changes the course of events that resulted in Tory's conviction. James says he overheard Harris admit in private conversations that it was she, not Lanez, who opened fire on Megan Thee Stallion on the evening of July 12, 2020. According to his account, Harris fired 3 shots at Megan, and Tory attempted to stop her by grabbing her arm and knocking down the gun, which led to the unintentional firing of 2 more shots. The former bodyguard, who was allegedly tied down by any NDA, non-disclosure agreement, claimed he came forward because his conscience was nagging at him, insisting that Lance never shot or assaulted Megan, as was decided in the initial court case. If this testimony were accurate, it would completely contradict the story that led to Lance's conviction in December 2022 on 3 felony gun charges. Together with political analyst Gianno Caldwell and UTP consultant Walter Roberts, Tory's legal team contended at the press conference that the new evidence indicates Lance was wrongfully convicted. They came for former Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gaskin, who pointed to alleged prosecutorial misconduct, missing forensic evidence, and what they called a politically motivated sentencing. The legal team went one step farther and asked California Governor Gavin Newsom to pardon Tory or reduce his sentence. In order to garner public support for his release, they have also launched a petition on change.org, which is published through Tory's official X account, highlighting the importance of his recent hospitalization and AIR being cancelled. The purportedly fresh evidence's appearance has generated intense discussion in a number of media sites. It's crucial to stress that Megan, in response to the new allegations, the stallion has continuously insisted that Lanez was the shooter during the initial trial and all subsequent proceedings. Her lawyer stated that the case was appropriately handled in court, implying that the new testimony does not alter the facts established during the trial and that the timing of these new claims dropping so soon are. The stabbing incident has sparked a variety of conjectures and conspiracy theories regarding potential links. Some social media users have hypothesized that the stabbing may have been an attempt to quiet Lanez as the new evidence was about to surface, while others have argued that the attack may have been planned to elicit sympathy for Lanez prior to the revelation of the new evidence. A Platform X user wrote, "It's crazy how Tory Lanez got stabbed before the new evidence came out that Kelsey Harris shot Megan, not Tory. This case is finally about to turn around." Another user speculated that based on information provided at the press conference and reported by other sites, the stabbing was a hit order from someone perhaps involved with the upcoming evidence. Bradley James asserts that he was present when Kelsey Harris had private conversations in which she allegedly confessed to being the shooter. According to James's testimony, the shooting occurred very differently from the account that resulted in Tory's conviction. He says that Harris fired 3 initial shots at Megan, and that Tory attempted to intervene by grabbing Harris's arm and knocking the gun downward, causing 2 more shots to unintentionally go off. If this version of events is confirmed, it would portray Tory as someone who was attempting to stop further violence rather than the aggressor. Although it's still unclear why he didn't come forward during the initial trial, James reportedly stated that he was coming now because his conscience was heavy with the feeling that an innocent man had been wrongfully imprisoned. Tory's legal team has allegedly pointed to DNA analysis that shows only a 0.01% chance that Lance touched the gun used in the shooting as one of the elements that call into question the original conviction.
Laid out here today, the prosecution failed to produce a single shred of forensic evidence tying Tory to the actual gun. His fingerprints weren't on it. His DNA was later found to be 100% nearly excluded from the gun, as shown in the worksheet that was provided to the defense late on the eve of the actual trial, after making a request for that very document. After trial, looking at this evidence, there is a 0.01% chance Tory's DNA was on the firearm.
The legal team has described the initial trial as fundamentally unfair, arguing that Tory never had a real chance to present his side due to what they describe as biased media pressure and prosecutorial overreach. They have also raised concerns about missing evidence, including claims that the actual gun and bullet used in the shooting were never properly processed or presented at trial. They contend that these factors, along with the new testimony, justify reconsidering his case at the highest levels, which is why they are pleading with Governor Cuomo for clemency. Social media, particularly Platform X, has been engulfed in controversy over these new legal claims. While some accounts have highlighted aspects of the claims, like the purported lack of DNA fingerprints or gunshot residue connecting Lanez to the shooting, other accounts have highlighted Bradley James's testimony, presenting it as potentially exonerating evidence. Despite being imprisoned, Tory has been active on social media. On May 14, 2025, he posted on X asking supporters to sign a petition for his release with the hashtag. The petition was started by the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety, and while precise numbers are not available at the time of this report, it has reportedly gained a lot of traction. However, not all social media reactions have been in favor of Tory or believing the new claims. While some users have reiterated their support for Megan Thee Stallion, others have voiced doubts over the new testimony's timeliness and veracity. The situation is further complicated by Tory's continued musical output despite being incarcerated, as previously mentioned. He has released music recorded both before and during his bid, including a 2025 album titled Peterson that was reportedly created entirely within prison using AI technology. His ongoing artistic presence has helped maintain his relevance and visibility, ensuring that developments in his case continue to attract significant public attention. It's worth noting that Tory's legal troubles extend beyond the shooting case that led to his current incarceration in December 2024. Some of these posts expressed frustration with abusers and their supporters, reflecting the polarized nature of public opinion on this case. As the case progresses, a number of important questions remain, such as whether Tory's legal team will formally submit their new evidence through the appropriate legal channels. The Stallion filed for a restraining order in January 2025, alleging that Tory was harassing her from prison through third parties, including a blogger who was allegedly spreading false claims about missing evidence. A judge granted a 5-year restraining order effective until January 9, 2030, prohibiting Tory from contacting or harassing Megan. What effect, if any, will the stabbing incident have on Tory's legal status? How will the courts react to these claims if they are formally brought? And maybe most immediately, how will Tory's recuperation from his wounds go? In the upcoming weeks and months, the answers to these issues should become clear, possibly changing the course of one of the most contentious celebrity court cases in recent memory. Let's investigate this case's wider ramifications, looking at how it represents and shapes public perceptions of celebrity justice, violence, and social media's ability to influence public opinion, the fallout and wider ramifications. According to multiple sources, the stabbing of Tory Lanez in California Correctional Institution has brought attention to the greater problem of violence in America's jail system, in addition to raising worries about his personal safety. As of May 14, 2025, Tory's condition is listed as fair. According to posts from his verified Instagram account, he is in excellent spirits despite his suffering and is incredibly grateful to God for surviving the attack. Prior to Tory being sent to a medical institution where he received more thorough care. Prison staff apparently provided first aid right away, indicating that the medical response was prompt and efficient. As previously mentioned, Santino Casio, the alleged attacker, has been placed in whole restricted housing while the Kern County District Attorney's Office and the prison's Investigative Services Unit conduct their investigations. Casio has a history of violence within the prison system, including prior convictions for assaults on other inmates. This pattern begs the question of how violent offenders are handled within correctional facilities and what safeguards are in place to stop such attacks from progressing beyond the actual physical attack. The ensuing legal developments have made an already contentious matter much more complicated. If confirmed by appropriate legal processes, the allegations of new evidence indicating Kelsey Harris, not Tory, was the one who shot Megan Thee Stallion, might constitute a significant turn in the events leading up to Tory's guilt. The testimony that Bradley provided. The allegations made at the press conference on May 14th suggest that James Harris's ex-bodyguard may cast doubt on the initial judgment. James claims that he heard Harris confess to shooting Megan and that Tory genuinely attempted to stop more bloodshed by stepping in. This account directly contradicts the course of events established during Tory's trial, where he was found to be the shooter. The legal team's choice to present these claims through a press conference rather than formal legal filings has drawn criticism from legal experts. Additionally, the team's request that Governor Gavin Newsom pardon Tory or commute his sentence, especially in light of the stabbing, suggests a possible tactic to capitalize on public sympathy and opinion by linking the new evidence claims to the violent attack Tory endured. It's possible that his attorneys are attempting to craft a compelling narrative of injustice that appeals to both his supporters and those who may be doubting his guilt. The response to the actual stabbing has been equally split, albeit with some noteworthy exceptions. Although some people who firmly believe in Tory's guilt acknowledge that violence against prisoners is a serious problem that should not be celebrated, others have shown less sympathy, arguing that the attack, while regrettable, must be seen in light of Tory's own alleged violent acts. Statements such as, "Talking about us laughing at Tory Lanez isn't right when you'll get up here and laugh, joke, make memes, and demonize Megan," have been posted on social media sites. The divergent responses to the attack and the fresh legal allegations highlight how strongly held public opinion is in this particular case. Looking ahead, a number of factors will probably affect how this situation unfolds. The main one is Tory's physical recovery from being shanked. Although reports indicate that he is getting better, the severity of his injuries, including collapsed lungs, points to a potentially drawn-out healing process. His health will unavoidably affect any legal proceedings or possible prison transfers that might be taken into consideration in light of the attack. The main question is whether Tory's team will formally submit the claims made at the press conference through the appropriate legal channels. In the meantime, the investigation into the stabbing itself is still ongoing. If Santino Casio is charged with anything related to the attack, the legal process would proceed concurrently with any developments in Tory's initial case. The results of this investigation could potentially influence decisions regarding Tory's placement within the prison system, especially if it is found that he faces ongoing safety risks at CCI Teja Chapel. If they do, the courts will need to assess Bradley James' credibility as a witness and decide whether his testimony, if accepted, would be sufficient to warrant reconsidering the original verdict. The case's effect on the persons immediately concerned, including Megan, is another important consideration. The horse. Her life and career have been significantly impacted by the shooting and the legal proceedings that followed. In interviews, she has discussed the trauma of the shooting, as well as the public scrutiny and skepticism she has encountered. In an interview with Elle magazine, she characterized the guilty verdict as a victory for women who have been humiliated for speaking out against violence. This horrific chapter for Megan is still open due to the case's ongoing litigation in both court and public debate, which could prolong the emotional impact of the initial incident. Regardless of their eventual legality, Tory's team's fresh allegations will unavoidably draw attention to the case again. and could lead to more public discussion and speculation about her. While the majority of public discourse has concentrated on the legal ramifications and possible links to his case, the stabbing constitutes a substantial extra trauma during what was already a difficult year of incarceration. It's critical to acknowledge the human cost of such a brutal assault. His reported 14 stab wounds and compressed lungs point to a physically traumatic event that is likely to have long-lasting psychological and physical repercussions. Additionally, the case has spurred conversations about how social media shapes narratives surrounding well-known legal issues. Sites like Reddit and Instagram, have developed into forums for the construction and dispute of opposing narratives around the case. Since these platforms are instantaneous, new events like the stabbing or the press conference announcing new evidence claims can quickly spark waves of reaction and speculation before the complete facts are known. As this story develops, there are still a number of important dates and potential milestones to come. If Tory's legal team follows through on their press conference, claims that formal filings related to the new evidence would represent a significant development in his case, then updates regarding his recovery from the stabbing will likely be provided through both official channels and his social media accounts. The stabbing itself is still being investigated, and possible charges against Santino Casio mark yet another significant turning point. Notable developments would also include any choices made on Tory's placement within the jail system, especially if safety concerns lead a transfer to be considered. Although the long-term effects of these incidents are still unknown, they have already guaranteed that Tory's case will continue to be the subject of discussion and public attention. The connection between celebrity violence and for those following the case, especially the numerous followers of both Tory and Megan Thee Stallion, the complicated situation generated by judicial proceedings and social media conversation defies straightforward explanations or simple remedies. There will probably be further events in the upcoming weeks and months that could clarify some facets of this complex scenario, while also possibly adding new difficulties. Finally, in a high-profile legal drama that has been making headlines since 2020, Tory Lanez's stabbing while incarcerated and the subsequent claims of new evidence in his shooting case represent significant developments. As Tory recovers from being shunked and his legal team possibly pursues their claims of new evidence, the case is still ongoing and changing. Click on the ones that are displayed on your screen to enjoy this video if you liked it.